Hi, I'm Paige. Welcome back to my kitchen. You're watching the next episode of Doughin' It with Paigey. Today we are making the country Parmesan and black pepper loaf from the cookbook Bread Baking for Beginners by Bonnie Ohara. Now, this is one of my favorite recipes in the book because I love cheese. And I like to say this is a bread that doesn't even need butter because it has so much flavor. It does call for freshly ground black pepper, and that can be a little bit of a grueling task if you don't have an electric pepper grinder. I don't have an electric pepper grinder. We'll be grinding by hand today, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started doing that because it's gonna take a few minutes. Now, if you have a helping hand available, feel free to call in some reinforcements to help you grind up your pepper. Now, if you're thinking of using ground pepper that comes in a tin like this, I've never tried it. I don't advise it. I think that it would be super peppery and probably not great. So just try to freshly grind your pepper. I want to talk very briefly about cheeses as well. I am using a Merlot Bellavitano, and I used this same cheese in our focaccia recipe. It's one of my absolute favorites, and it can be found at Kroger. The recipe calls for grated cheese, and I'm not going to be grating it today. I'm actually just going to be really finely shredding it. If you want to cube your cheese, I have seen people do that as well, and it's turned out pretty good. So feel free to try whatever you like. Now that we have our pepper and cheese ready, let's go ahead and weigh out the rest of our ingredients. We're going to start off by weighing out some all-purpose flour, a little bit of whole wheat flour, water, salt, and yeast. Today I'm actually halving this recipe, so I have cut all of our ingredients in half. To start off, we will add the yeast on top of the water and whisk that until it is nice and bubbly. We'll then add the flour on top of the water and yeast mixture and the salt on top of the flour. That will keep the salt from coming in direct contact with the yeast, which can inhibit a rise. Now we're just going to jump right in and start mixing our dough. Now I like to mix by hand because it really allows me to feel the dough and kind of get to know it. If you don't really feel like getting sticky, you can use a wooden spoon or a rubber spatula to mix up your dough. Now you're just going to want to jump in and scrape all of the ingredients off of the sides of the bowl, really get in underneath the dough and just try to squeeze it and incorporate all of the ingredients together the best that you can. Now the goal here is to get the dough as stretchy as you possibly can. I usually mix for about 2 to 3 minutes by hand until it gets nice and stretchy like this. Now that we're done mixing our dough, we're going to go ahead and let this rest for about 30 minutes so that the flour can absorb some of that water. Okay, it's been about 30 minutes. Our dough is done resting, so we're going to go ahead and start kneading our dough. We're going to start off by lightly flouring our countertops so that the dough doesn't stick. We're going to turn our dough out of the bowl. Now that whole wheat flour soaks up a lot of the water, so you may not need a lot of flour when you're kneading this dough. So when we start kneading, we're going to start by pressing forward with the heels of our hands and pulling it back. Give it a quarter turn. Same, push it forward, pull it back, quarter turn. And you'll notice at the very beginning of kneading this, it's going to be pretty slack. It will tighten up as you continue to knead the dough. Now we're going to knead this for about 5 to 10 minutes until the dough has tightened up. Now that we're done kneading and our dough is tightened up, we're going to go ahead and add in our cheese and pepper. Now we want to start off with wet hands to keep the ingredients from sticking to us. So what we're going to do is we're going to press this out, and this is really similar to the country raisin and walnut loaf that we made last week. So we're going to press this out a little bit, and I'm going to add about half of the pepper and about half of the cheese. Now, even with this recipe halved, this is a lot of cheese, so I'm gonna try incorporating it just a little bit at a time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off on the side farthest away from you and pull this down, and we're gonna make a letter fold. So fold it down to the middle, come in from this side, same thing. This, and like this. Now I'm gonna add a little bit more water to my hands. And we're gonna press the dough out again and add the remainder of our ingredients. And another couple sets of letter folds. So I'm gonna give it another press. If you need to add more water to your hands, go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna keep continuing to give this letter folds until I can feel the ingredients are really well combined. Now, if this is your first time incorporating additional ingredients into your dough, it's going to feel a little bit weird, just kind of dry. You'll feel large air pockets with ingredients. Just keep working with it. Eventually, it will all start to feel pretty uniform and like the ingredients are well combined. Kind of look around your dough. If you're seeing some darker spots where that pepper is, just continue to work with it and just try to get everything as evenly dispersed as you can. You can also try to feel your dough. This part of my dough right here just doesn't really feel like there's anything in it, so I'm just going to continue folding it until it feels more uniform. Now that all of our ingredients are evenly dispersed, we are going to pop this back into the bowl and let this rise for 3 hours. I'm going to go ahead and cover this up with a floured kitchen towel, and we'll come back and check on it then. All right, it has been 3 hours, and here is what our dough looks like. It has obviously risen. It is doubled in size. It smells so good. So we're going to go ahead and get this pre-shaped. I'm going to start off by adding a little bit of flour to the counter. And we are going to turn our dough out of the bowl so that the top side is down onto the counter. The goal of pre-shaping is to develop some nice tension across the top of your loaf. So what I'm going to do is take my dough scraper and I'm just going to slide this underneath my dough, give it a quarter turn and do the same thing. You can see this here, but this tear right here, this is what you're trying to avoid when pre-shaping. So you really want to try to get the tension across the top of the loaf without this happening. But if it happens, whatever, it's going to be fine. Okay, so now that this has developed some tension, we're going to go ahead and let this bench rest. I'm going to cover this up with my floured kitchen towel and we'll let it hang out for about 30 minutes and we'll come back and check it then. Right, here is what our dough looks like after it's been bench resting. So we're going to go ahead and get this shaped. I'm going to add a little bit of flour and turn our dough over for just a second so I can add some flour to our work surface. We don't want too much flour here, just a very thin layer. So we're going to do the same letter folds and we're just going to pull from one side and fold it to meet the middle. From the bottom, we'll do the same thing. Come in from the left. And from the right. We're going to flip this over and create some even tension across the top of the loaf again. You can just take this in your hands, just cup your hands underneath and just start turning it gently. Again, without trying to tear the top. should look something like this. I am going to put this into the proofing basket, seam side down, and we will come back and check this in about an hour to an hour and a half. While our dough is proofing, I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my oven. I'm also gonna go ahead and preheat my Dutch oven as well. So I'll see you guys in just a bit. Okay, our dough is done proofing, so we're gonna go ahead and score it and get it into the oven. So I'm just gonna turn this right out of the proofing basket onto some parchment paper. I'm gonna try to score this a little bit differently today. I'm gonna try to do a heart, and don't judge me. I've literally never done this before, so I have no idea how it's gonna turn out, but let's see. Now, if you're slashing this at home and you're just doing a straight line or the X like it mentions in the book, just remember to keep your lom at a 30-degree angle and get it pretty deep. Okay, doesn't look that bad. So we're just gonna drop our dough into the Dutch oven and we're gonna cook this covered for about 25 minutes. We will then remove the lid and cook it for an additional 20 minutes. Here is what our bread looks like after 25 minutes, and here is what our bread looks like after 20 more minutes. All right guys, our bread has been resting for about 30 minutes. It has really cooled down and I am just obsessed with this. The heart turned out so much better than I expected it to. I honestly thought I was gonna screw that up, and it's really, really cute. It smells so good in here. I can literally just smell cheese and bread and pepper, and it just smells so good. Let's go ahead and do a taste test. Now, I just want to note before I eat this, I know it looks a little brown and you might think it's like burned or something. I promise you it's not burned. That cheese just gives it a really nice brown color. But anyway, let's take a bite. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's so good. Okay, the bread is so good. It's kind of spicy. It's got that black pepper spice. It's really nice. And that cheese just gives it so much flavor. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I don't even think this bread needs butter, but if you want to add it, obviously it's not going to make it worse. So since the bread is so good and my dog has been waiting all day for this, we're going to go ahead and give her a taste test. This is Dutch. She loves bread. Now it just breaks my little heart for this video to be over, but be sure to tune in next week because we are making a honey wheat bread and I'm really excited to try this recipe with you guys. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, be sure to subscribe, and thanks again for watching Doughing It with Paigey. I'll see you guys next time. Are you hangry or something? Was that good? Hate it. I don't know if I like that. Oh yeah. I am obsessed with cheese. So that's it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay. I want to talk about cheese. Go out, girl. Just go treat yourself. Who's girl? Okay, we need to grind. Now that we have our pepper grounded up, not saying that. That might have been so weird. It's so much more better. Ooh, kind of spicy. I can like see the cheese in here.
Cheese.
Oh God. This is my loaf. Now it just breaks my heart, but we're done.